I don't know why I'm recording this video today. I didn't sleep a lot. I organized a little dinner at my place last night, so I went to bed way too late. I woke up way too early because my internal clock in my body tells me every morning at 7 a.m. to just get out of bed and start my day. But I don't feel the best, but I had the feeling that at some point today I was sitting on my balcony in the sun, and I had the feeling that, I don't know, I got like inspired to write a topic for video. And as I started writing, I realized that I was going to shoot that video today for some reason. I mean, to be honest, mainly because if I didn't do it today, didn't record it today, I probably would not have recorded it tomorrow, and then something else would have gotten in the way, and I would have been busy, and then I wouldn't have been in Berlin, and then, you know, there's always like something. So I decided to record it today. So excuse my face, my little eyes, and yeah, but it's not very important. The clap is very important to synchronize the sound of the external recorder that I'm using, that's close to me here on this side, and the microphone that is on top of my camera. Today I am shooting on the Lumix GH2, on the hacked one, on a 42.5mm lens, Zhongyi at f1.2, just because I can. And I have next to me, there is a little Old English Bulldog sleeping, so from time to time you're going to hear some weird sounds. So last week it was the neighbor's kids, and today is probably going to be Mini, the Old English Bulldog. On top of being a creative, I also created my own dogsitter collective with a couple of people here in Berlin, and it's called And the Doggos. I will link it down below in the description if you're interested about what we do, the life of a dog sitter, or just some cute dog content. You can follow us on Instagram. This is a color chart. This one is the Data Color Spider, I think 24, Spider Checker 24. You can use that if you want to really make sure that the colors look like on screen the way they are supposed to be. Like sometimes the white balance is not exactly set the way it's supposed to be. And with DaVinci Resolve and this kind of softwares, you can just scan this part and you get accurate colors. Alternatively, if you don't have a card like that, because those things are way too expensive in my opinion for what they are, they're pretty useful but too expensive for what they are, you can get something like that. This is a white card. So in your editing software, you choose this little white card and say that this is white. This is the pure white, the purest white that, I don't know if it's the purest white, but this is real white. So if you were to put your white balance selector on this card, all colors are supposed to look the way they are in real life. I'm on a manual focus lens today, so I hope that I nailed focus, and because I am on the Lumix GH2, I have no possibility of checking with the Panasonic app on my phone, because that's something that you can do with the G9 or G81 or other cameras like that. With the GH2 you cannot do that, so you kind of have to find a way to focus and try to be in focus. The amazing thing when recording on the GH2 is that once you hack it, you unlock amazing 24 frames per second image quality. You all unlock a higher bitrate in terms of color depth. You also unlock better codecs, so if you plug in a microphone on top of your camera, on the side of the camera, the audio is going to be improved as well. And if you do the hack the right way, you can also unblock the 30-minute recording limit. That's why I'm recording on the GH2 right now. I'm making this video today because he's snoring so loud. It's fine. We went playing a little bit, so now she's tired. So I'm making this video for someone like me, or better said, the someone like me that I was about 15 years ago with little to no knowledge of adapting vintage lenses. So if I had seen a video like that when I started my photo and video journey, I would have saved a lot of money, and also I think that my creative development would have been slightly different, and it would have probably unlocked more possibilities than what I thought I had. Photography has been a part of my life for a very long time. I remember when I was about 10 or 12 years old, I would always carry small point and shoot cameras with me, disposable cameras, I mean, the Kodak ones that had like, I think 36 shots on it. And I used that to document my life a little bit. I remember going to school and spending time with my friends out in the woods, or at my friend's place, and I don't know, I would just like keep memories, take photos. They were not like any kind of aesthetically pleasing photos, and the aim was never to create art, but it was more to remember, just like be in the moment with my friends and take photos of what we were doing. Some of those photos still exist. I am not going to show them to you though, because they're just like not good photos, and I don't see the point necessarily of showing them. And after that period, small point and shoot cameras became a thing. I remember I had a Kodak one, then I had a Nikon one, then I had a Sony Handycam, and I used those cameras mainly again to document my life, but also I started making videos. The first videos I made were of us, me and my friends, playing basketball, and the photos were to document everyday life. And sometimes I would go to visit cities, and in those cities I would take some photos. So it was more making memories, like keeping memories of the places I went to, keeping memories of my friends I spent time with, but also recording myself playing basketball. Not that I was any good, or that with our friends we were like world champions or anything, but we I don't know, we just like to record each other and have footage, keep memories of us playing. And I remember like some girls in my class back then, because I would post those videos on sky blogs, like the type of blogs that all kids had, and she was making fun of me, telling me that I was not good enough. What was the purpose of me posting a video of us playing basketball? We're not even that good. But I don't know, like I never said we were. It was just fun to have footage of us recorded footage of us playing. At some point I felt like giving analog photography a shot again in my life. When I moved to Berlin, I remember going to antique stores, because I like to go to thrift stores and like antique stores. And a couple of years ago, like I remember about 10 years ago, when you went to antique stores or secondhand stores, you could find some old Russian cameras with old Russian lenses for about 5 to 10 euros. And I remember that those dudes that were selling them had no idea if they were working or not. So I had like one rule of like for me buying those cameras, and it was try the shutter. If the shutter closes and opens and closes, if you press the shutter button, check if the film, the button that rolls the film back, if this one works, if you can let it roll. And I don't know, just look at the overall aspect of the camera. And if you pay $5 or $10 for a beautiful vintage camera and it could work, I mean, get it. Worst case, you keep it in your flat somewhere as a little bit of decoration. And if it works, then hey, that's amazing. And I remember I found an Altix NB with a Carl Zeiss lens for about 10 euros, and it was a fully mechanical camera. Carl Zeiss lenses are known for being extremely good lenses. There have been some, when the wall was built, I think that Carl Zeiss had like 2 different factories, but still Carl Zeiss has some pretty good glass and always has. Yeah, I got my Altix NB, started taking photos with it, and I had to pretty much learn analog photography from scratch, because when you shoot with a digital camera, you see the settings, you see immediately if you change the shutter speed, if you change the aperture, how it affects the image. If you are shooting with LCD viewfinder or like a LCD screen, of course. But with an analog camera, you take your shot, and the settings need to be the right ones. Otherwise, the photo is not going to turn out good. So yeah, I learned about all those rules like Sony 16, how to set up your ISO to match the shutter speed, to match the aperture, to get the right type of image, the right quality of image. I learned about different types of film stock, what it actually meant, what's the difference between an ISO 60 and an ISO 800, what are the different film grains. I mean, I could make an entire different video about my journey into analog photography. I had a Nikon FG, a Nikon EM. I bought another Nikon FG again because my first one broke. Then I had a Konica point and shoot. Then I had 2 different Pentax point and shoot cameras. Then I got my medium format, the Yashica Mat 124G. Did I mention the Zenith ET already? I don't know. And Canonet, love that camera, got stolen, unfortunately. But out of all of those cameras, I only kept 3, the Nikon FG, the Nikkormats, and the Yashica, because I want to keep like a beautiful medium format camera. Look at it, like, of course I'm not going to get rid of it. Film prices went up. I still shoot film, but I'm more careful about what I shoot and how I shoot it. And that takes some of the joy out of it, in my opinion. Maybe my shot to good shot ratio is not high enough, but if I start thinking that I might miss the shot and that it might be too expensive to miss a shot, then I don't know, it takes the fun out of it. I think that if I was to start again doing analog photography, I would use something like an Olympus Pen or something like the Agat 18. This is pretty much a camera that allows you to shoot analog, but instead of having 1 image on the negative, you get 2. So if you buy a roll of film that has 36 photos on them, you can get 72 out of it. So that makes the cost of film more interesting. This camera is just amazing. That's the Pen FT original, with the 38mm lens, f1.8. I love that lens. I use it. I use the lens, not the camera. That's my girlfriend's camera. So in the end, I kept 2 35mm camera and my medium format. But even though I sold the most of my bodies, I still kept the lenses, except for 2, the Helios 44-2 and the Industar something, the smallest lens that you can find on the M42 mount. The reason I sold my Helios was that the quality of that lens was bad. Helios is known, the Helios 44-2 is known for the swirly bokeh that it creates, and if you get it rehoused, you can get amazing results from it. They build that lens in 3 different factories. I think the best one is KMZ. I am not really sure, but I think KMZ was the best factory that produced the highest quality lenses. Other factories produced the same lens, but were less careful with the amount of oil that they would put on the different blades inside the lens, and that can cause way too much flaring. And I had that issue with my lens. As soon as I would take it out, I would have a lot of chromatic aberration as well. I don't know if it's chromatic aberration or just like a purple color cast. So I got rid of the Helios, I got rid of the Industar, because the Industar also had a lot of character, but way too much character for me to handle, actually. I still have some photos that are shot with it. I'll try to include them as well here in the video. If I find them on any of my 7 or 8 hard drives. Why would I keep the lenses without the bodies? So to answer that, I have to sidetrack the story a little bit, but it will all connect, I promise. I got into Micro Four Thirds after my Canon gear got stolen, as I have explained in my previous video. When I was looking for new lenses, I bought a few, started shooting. I was quite happy with them, but I realized that they were lacking something. Sometimes I like to take my photos and do a little bit of editing, but I'm not like a big editor. I don't like to add a lot of colors. I don't like to play too much with a photo. I just don't have the patience for it. That's why also like analog photography, you choose a film stock and then you pretty much know which kind of colors and like which kind of result you are going to get some Fuji film, the colors are going to be a little bit greener, on the greener side. If you get some Kodak, depending on the Kodak that you get, the colors tend to be a little bit warmer. But pretty much all of those new lenses that I used on Micro Four Thirds after my Canon gear got stolen, I found them to be sometimes a little bit too sharp. People call it clinical sharpness. If you're shooting something like product photography, then depending on the case, depending on the brand, sharpness and precision is essential. For instance, I worked for a liquor brand a couple of months ago, and I had to shoot some product photography for them, and those shots were supposed to be used on their website, but also in their newsletter, on their social media, and potentially even on paid ads. You want sharpness for that. Mainly because you don't know how the photos are going to be used, where they're going to be used. You want the designer to be able to crop in, zoom in, cut things out. You cannot do that if you're working with a lens that's not sharp. In other cases, like video or portrait photography, you literally don't want too much sharpness because it is going to look non-organic, especially when you shoot people, because the sharper the lens when you shoot people, the more you are going to notice all the pimples or like all the imperfections of the skin. So I remember watching a bunch of videos ages ago, and I see this one creator. Actually, I remember the thumbnail. It showed the Lumix GH5 with the Sigma 18-35 art lens, art series f8 1.8. And in my mind, in my head, I remember like knowing that this lens existed for full frame cameras. How would it be possible to put that lens on a GH5? And then I realized that you could actually just use an adapter. I have no idea how this video is going to sound like. I mean, I can see myself in the screen, but I don't know at all if I am actually going to be able to use the audio the way I want it to, because Mini is snoring so loud. I don't care. I'm still going to make the video. I'm not going to stop now. Anyway, I do my research, like I watch the video, I do my research, and it turns out that you can mount any kind of lens that you own, pretty much any kind of lens that you own, to Micro Four Thirds cameras with adapters. There are different types of adapters. There are dumb adapters, there are focal reducers, there are dumb adapters without glass, there are dumb adapters with glass, there are focal reducers, or some brands call them speed boosters. There are some with electronic connections. There are some without electronic connections. There are some with manual focus. There are some with autofocus. When I discovered that, I realized that I could use a bunch of my lenses from my analog cameras on my modern micro four thirds cameras. And with that, I'm pretty sure that I would get the personality or like the character that I was lacking in the images that I sometimes would get from certain micro four thirds lenses. I went on eBay, bought a DOM adapter to try it out. The adapter came in a couple of days after that, and I mounted my first analog lens on digital body. I quickly realized that DOM adapters actually just double the size of the focal length. 50mm becomes 100, 100 becomes 200, etc. So I did a lot of research, found out about focal reducers or speed boosters. The main speed booster brand makes speed boosters and speed booster XL that are amazing, but too expensive for me back then. I still don't think that I would invest in a speed booster XL unless I really have a specific scenario in mind that would make me need it, but so far I don't need it. And so I got a Viltrox focal reducer, and focal reducers basically take your focal length, the focal length of the lens, you multiply it by 0.71, and then you multiply it by 2 for the crop factor of micro four thirds. I'll give you an example. I have this lens, the Sigma Super Wide 2, tiny with a little lens hood, 2.8 with the focal reducer, it becomes a f2, 24 millimeters. You multiply that by 0.71, and then you multiply it by 2 to give you the full frame equivalent. So basically that 24mm lens becomes a 34 full frame equivalent lens. So that's pretty much the equivalent of the Olympus 17mm f1.8 lens that you can get for micro four thirds. But that Sigma lens, I paid 20 euros for it, and it has macro capabilities. If you have any questions about that, please write them in the comments, because I know that this section is going to be a little bit confusing. There's a lot of math involved, not a lot, but there are some things that are hard to understand if you don't really get them. And I'm the worst person at math. Like, I don't know anything at math. I've been bad at math for my entire life. So focal reducers are interesting, and I recommend you getting a good one. I have a couple of them. I have a Viltrox NF and X43, which is a manual focal reducer for Nikon lenses specifically. I also own a Viltrox EF-M2 version 2 with a USB input that you can regularly update with the latest firmware updates. I also have a Zhongyi Lens Turbo 2 M42 M43, which enables me to use all my M42 lenses. So yeah, I have 3 focal reducers. I'm also going to have to get a DOM adapter for the lens that I have on that thing. On my little brown Super 8 Compact 500. I'm very curious to see how that lens performs on a digital camera for photo and video. So yeah, basically, if you were to get an adapter to adapt vintage lenses, I highly recommend you get a focal reducer. That way you do not lose the wider aspect of the lens, and you also gain a full stop of light. So every 2.8 becomes a f2, f1.8 becomes a f1.4, yeah, and so forth. There are many advantages of using vintage glass on modern bodies. The first one I can think of is that it unlocks a world of new possibilities in terms of creativity. You can have access to legendary glass, some old Nikkor glass from the 60s. You can get some Voigtlander lenses, but you can also get some cheap Russian lenses that have unique characteristics, like the one I mentioned previously, the Helios 44-2. And actually, there's a YouTuber that made an amazing video about vintage lenses, the pros and cons of Micro Four Thirds body, and I think his channel is Fred R. What he does, like, I'm going to link a couple of videos and check them out, please, because he's just an amazing creator. He's literally a creative creator. Older lenses are often way cheaper. Of course, there are exceptions. There's legendary glass that's very expensive, but older lenses are generally way less expensive compared to the modern equivalent nowadays. Character. Many of those lenses have flaws, but those flaws actually are going to make your images, your photos, your videos unique. And that's something that's going to define also a style. And style is something that a lot of photographers and videographers are looking for. Like, everyone can press a button and get a perfectly sharp image, but if you have a nice framing and on top of that a lot of character in your image, then the image is going to be a good one. Sometimes even lenses with scratches, fungus, or a little bit of dust inside the glass elements can create a unique look that you could not recreate in editing. Manual control. I love to, for video, not for photo, I love to be in control of my focus. And with focus by wire lenses, like those modern lenses that you buy nowadays, it is really difficult to manually focus without having like those little stutter effects when you try to focus on something. I'm pretty sure that I don't have footage of what I am explaining right now, but basically focusing by wire makes the focus not smooth. So every time you turn, it goes a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and it almost feels like there's less lack of lubricant inside the lens. And with vintage lenses, usually when you turn them, let's say I take that one. When you turn them, it's smooth. You know, it's like one motion. Yes, of course, some lenses sometimes need to be lubricated or restored, lubricated, cleaned. I am not the one to do that. I sometimes when I notice that a lens isn't as smooth as I want it to, I try to clean it a little bit, and then I add like a rubber ring. I'm going to show a more detailed image of that, but those rubber rings, you can get them pretty much everywhere. They are initially created so you can mount a follow focus on your cage of your camera, and then the follow focus, as you turn it, those little teeth, it locks in there, and when you turn the follow focus or when you press a button, it follows. But I use those rubber rings, sorry, because it makes the focusing much smoother. Manual control pretty much forces you to slow down and think about the shooting process, and also it can make it easier for you to draw the attention of the viewer from one point to a different one. Solid metal lenses like this, like old lenses like this, have such a strong build. They're made out of metal and glass only. They're going to survive a couple of drops. You could use that as a weapon, and after you use it, I'm pretty sure you can still mount it on your camera and it's going to give you amazing images. So yeah, those lenses are quite durable, and they are way more rugged than any of the newer lenses that are released today, and they're going to outlast I'm pretty sure that they are going to outlast some of the newer lenses as well, because they don't have any electronical parts on them. And also, some of the lenses hold their value. Some, if you take some legendary glass, the price that you are going to buy it at today, it's probably going to pretty much remain the same, potentially even increase over time if you treat it well, if you maintain it, if you clean it regularly, which I don't do. But for instance, I have one lens right here, a legendary lens, the 55mm f1.2 by Nikkor. I love that lens so much. It's a non-AI lens, so I have to use it on my old Nikkormat 1.2. It's incredible. It has some dust in it, but it doesn't really matter. I bought it from a seller in Japan. Amazing quality. I use that thing a lot, and the other day I considered selling it, and I looked at the listings and I saw that every single lens like that was about 50 euros more expensive than when I bought it. So I can imagine that in 10 years from now the value is going to be even higher. I'm not into making money with photo gear. I don't see it as an investment to make money, but it's still good to know that if you buy something that's expensive, that it's at least not going to lose its value and potentially even gain a little bit of attractiveness and increase its price a little bit. With old vintage lenses, you can keep the lens, change your bodies, change your camera brands, change your camera system, but you could still mount that lens. You can create fun pairings. I don't know if you know the Pentax 110 cameras. I think it used to be a spy camera, like it's a tiny one, it's like this small, and the lenses are like tiny, ridiculously tiny, and I saw some people adapting those lenses on their GH5, which makes for ridiculous combo, but the images they get are quite interesting. So I don't know, I'm not mad at that combo. I think it's quite fun, and adapting lenses is actually quite fun. And those funny pairings are going to lead people talking to you to ask what that thing is, what are you shooting with, why does it look so funny. So yeah, it's a good conversation starter as well. Chinese manufacturers have specialized in creating modern lenses with vintage features like manual focus, the glass elements the way they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but with the right mounts. So let's say Zhongyi, Pentacon, Zhongyi, Mic 7 Artisan, TT Artisan, Laowa, all of those brands make new vintage lenses for cameras like Micro Four Thirds. I'm actually shooting on the Zhongyi 42.5 f1.2 now. I also own the Zhongyi 17mm f0.95. I own a TT Artisan 25mm f2. So yeah, I like those vintage lenses as well. The advantage that you have with those lenses is that they are way smaller compared to if you were to adapt a vintage lens, put on top of that the adapter, and then put that on your camera. Sometimes those combos can become a little bit too big. I highly recommend you check out some of those cheaper Chinese alternatives. Some might be less good than others, some might be better, but you can always find some for cheap on the second-hand market. And if you don't like them, you're not going to waste too much money, and you can pretty much resell them for the same amount of money that you spent initially. Of course, there are drawbacks when using adapted lenses. For instance, you don't have EXIF data, metadata or EXIF data. So basically, when you mount a lens on your camera, you have to you're not going to get the information about what lens you use to shoot in the file of the image. So what I recommend you do, I do it and it's helping me a lot, is that every time I mount a new lens on my camera that doesn't have electronic contacts or that doesn't give me EXIF data, as soon as I mount the lens, I try to find a mirror and I take a photo of me in the mirror. So I see which lens I was using that day or those couple of days or that week or whatever. So this is a tip that I highly that I want to give you, and you should really do that, because I have had moments where I was looking at my photos and I was blown away by the quality I would get, but I could not remember which lens I was using on that camera. So that is quite annoying, to be honest. And of course, you should not forget that as soon as you adapt your vintage lens to your camera, you have to manually set the stabilizer in the camera. So you always have to do that little calculation, that initial focal length multiplied by the magnification of the focal reducer that you're using. And yeah, that sometimes can be a pain in the ass, and sometimes it happens to me as well that I forget it and I realize that my stabilizer is set on 24mm when the lens equivalent is actually 50mm, and then like my footage is shaky, but by the time I realize it, it's too late, like the scene has passed. So be careful with that. And also, and that's something that I forgot to mention, as soon as you try to use a lens that is not that's not native to your camera system, in the menu you have to activate something called shoot without lens or something. Shoot without native lens or shoot without lens. You have to activate that, because otherwise the camera is going to show you a black screen. I'm not going to talk about all the vintage lenses that I own, but I have a couple of honorable mentions. If you are interested in that, I can make a proper video, but there is the Nikkor 28-50 3.5. Love that lens. I love to pair it with Micro Four Thirds bodies, mainly with the Lumix G81, G9. Then I have two Sigma lenses. This is the mini wide and this is the super wide. 24mm 2.8, 28mm 2.8, amazing ones. Then I have the E series, the 50mm f1.8. I love that lens. The 55mm f1.2 that I mentioned previously, legendary piece of glass. I don't even know if I'm qualified to talk about like the quality of glass, but I can share my experience, so that is some kind of expertise in my opinion. Then I also like the Nikon 135mm f2.8. This is also an amazing lens. I really like it. And other than that, I have a couple of other Nikon lenses, but I'm just going to mention some few other lenses. On the M42 mount, I have this adapter, the Zhongyi adapter, so I love to pair it with my Zeiss Tessar. That one, it does like a nice little pairing. I get amazing image quality from that. I also use the Pentacon 28mm f2.8, sorry, 29mm. They want it to be different, I guess. 29mm f2.8. I get some very nostalgic, dreamy videos and photos with that combo, especially since my version is a little bit scratched in the front. I had the second one. I ended up selling it because I just need this one, and I bought it for 19 euros. Like, that's ridiculous. The images I get with that adapted on my Lumix G9 are incredible. How many times have I said incredible in this video? So one morning I woke up and I remember sitting in my kitchen and thinking about the L lenses that I loved when I was still with Canon, and for some reason this lens kept coming up to my mind. And the same day I went on eBay Kleinanzeigen and I saw an amazing deal. I had to get it, and I have been using it ever since. I use it with a couple of different combos, but I mainly like to use it with my G9. And I actually went to shoot a festival for Coda, the Off Days Festival here in Berlin in Citadelle Spandau, and I got amazing results with that lens combo with this Viltrox mount adapter. This is the Viltrox EF-M2 version 2, which has electronic connections. It allows me to autofocus with my camera, and I can update the firmware of the lens adapter per USB, which is amazing. I'm going to give you a little bonus tip now. I know people like bonus tips, or like, not, I don't know if it's a tip or if it's just something interesting that you can do. I don't know if you know what anamorphic lenses are. Anamorphic lenses pretty much compress the image so that you get more information on the right and on the left of the image. But when you record it, you are going to get an image that looks very weird. Basically, the image looks compressed like that because you get more information from the sides in, and you are going to have to de-squeeze that image when you edit the footage. If you have an external monitor, depending on the monitor, if you have certain cameras, you can get anamorphic de-squeeze immediately in the camera. But I like to use something like, I have to get up because it's not here. I like to use something like that. This is the Isco Optik Germany Kiptaron anamorphic. I'm going to link it if you want in the description. This is actually a lens from a cinema projector. I hope that I got my facts straight here. So basically, that lens turned 4:3 footage into 16:9 footage for the cinema. It's a very interesting experience that you can do. If you were to get one of these, there are many. You adapt them with a screw mount, a screw mount adapter. You can put that on pretty much any lens. I have liked to pair this with my Nikon 50mm, that one. I like to pair it like that. Then I get, so it's a 50mm divided by 0.71 times 2 plus the anamorphic effect. I get very interesting results. With that combo, I shot the other day, I went with my girlfriend shooting a yoga video somewhere outside of Berlin. It's very complicated to get the focus right, so in the future I'm going to try to use it at f8 instead of f4 or f5.6. But this is amazing if you want to get cinematic footage. This really makes everything look like a movie. This is a small experiment that I highly recommend you to do. It's not easy to focus. What I always try to do is keep the focus peaking on, manually focus, make sure that this is aligned properly. You don't want it to be like not the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, those are some of my favorite lenses that I like to adapt. When I've ended my last video the other day, I mentioned that I was going to make burgers. The burgers were excellent. It turns out that it was about 3 weeks ago, and now I'm going to make burgers again because I love my gluten-free burgers so much. So, and my girlfriend too. This video has to come to an end. Even my voice is telling me to stop the video now. Alright, that's it.